Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport and another episode of Formula 1 Underrated, where we take a look at the drivers who maybe deserve more recognition than they actually get. Today looking at Japanese phenomenon Takuma Sato, one of the greatest exports from the land of the rising sun, who paved out a Honda-powered career in Formula 1 and charmed crowds with his wild driving style that either meant he was going to be very quick or crash into something. Occasionally both. But it is a trait that often makes Japanese drivers exciting to watch, so if you have any thoughts or memories on Takuma Sato you'd like to share, leave a comment down below, and why not subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter. I am uploading content almost every other day. I would like to keep you around. With that said, let's begin.
And takes the position, but Sato is right with him as they come across the start-finish line. Here's the Meritus crew, their man Marcel Romano, third in class. Oh, and contact! Oh, big impact for Nicholas Chiesa. Making contact with Takuma Sato. Sato coming down the inside. Chiesa's not happy with that one since the start. Well, let's have a look at this again. Sato down the inside. Chiesa leaving him no room.
Takuma Sato had a very brief career in Japan before moving to the UK to compete in the British Formula 3 Championship in the year 2000. Japanese drivers do well in the UK. I guess it's the same wet and cold climate in Japan and England that gives them a healthy experience of drizzly conditions. But at his first attempt in British Formula 3, Sato finished third overall behind future F1 driver Antonio Pizzonia and failed son of an F1 champion Thomas Scheckter. Takuma Sato won the British Formula 3 Championship a year later in 2001 when he beat future teammate Anthony Davidson to the title, but more success followed that same year when Sato would go on to win the 2001 Macau Grand Prix, the first ever Japanese driver to win the famous race, and he also dominated the Masters of Formula 3 race at Zandvoort, beating Andre Lotterer by over 10 seconds. 2001 had been a very good year for the young Japanese driver, so good in fact Formula 1 was already knocking on the door. And so for 2002 Takuma Sato lined up in Melbourne on a Formula 1 grid with the Honda powered Jordan team. He had an interesting year. He was often quick but occasionally wild. As I said, a trait you can use to describe most Japanese drivers. Sato wouldn't score points until the very last race of the year, at his home race in Japan, when he scored an excellent 5th place finish. On the way to the last race though, he would spin out in Spain before Heidfeld destroyed his car in Austria. Sato is probably not the first Japanese person to be left gaping by a randy German, but crashes also followed in Monaco and France, along with very little reliability from the Jordan. It meant a pretty torrid year for Sato, and he followed Honda away from Jordan at the end of the year to the BAR team, but only as a test driver, at first. Sato spent 2003 on the sidelines until the final round at Suzuka. Villeneuve's contract negotiations were not going well, maybe they wouldn't give him a new binky, but that meant Takuma Sato got to race, and he finished a respectable 6th place. In 2 years he had 2 points finishes in Formula 1, both at Suzuka. This convinced British American Racing to keep him on as Jenson Button's teammate for 2004, and Sato had his best year by far, although often blighted by engine failures. 6 in a single year is almost an achievement, plus another couple of crashes including into Michael Schumacher at Spa. But there were times when Takuma Sato looked like the real deal, including his first and only podium, and the first for a Japanese driver in Formula 1 since Aguri Suzuki in 1990. It was at the American Grand Prix in 2004 when Sato pulled off some masterful overtakes, drove hard even after skipping a pit stop, and followed the Ferraris for a 3rd place. But this was as good as it got in Formula 1 for Takuma Sato. 2005 was a mess for the British American racing team. They had a bad start, and just as they seemed to find their feet, they were disqualified for having both cars be underweight and banned for 2 races. The team wouldn't score a point till round 10 in France, but Takuma Sato would have to wait until the Hungarian Grand Prix to score his one and only point of the year with an 8th place finish. This poor form saw Sato leave BAR just as they became Honda, but he would find a new home with the brand new Super Aguri team, ran by boss Aguri Suzuki, who I mentioned earlier and did a video on a long while ago. But starting a new team is like walking through stinging nettles completely butt naked. It's going to hurt bad before it gets any better, if it ever does, and results were difficult for Super Aguri. The original chassis was based on a 2002 Arrows, and as such was not very good. They replaced it later in the year with an in-house built chassis, and results improved slightly. No thanks to UJ Ida, who nearly killed Christian Albers, and was replaced by several drivers who would partner Takuma Sato, but none would score points. But things would be better in 2007 when Sato and teammate Davidson got a 10th and 11th in qualification at the Australian Grand Prix, by far the best the team had done up to this point. Although they'd score no points in the race, Sato would score at the Spanish and Canadian Grand Prix, the latter of which would see Sato passing a number of high profile racers, including current world champion at that point, Fernando Alonso, into a final 6th place, and this would be the height of success for the beleaguered team. Their dodgy SS United Group Oil and Gas Company, who were sponsoring the team, failed to make payments owed to them, and after 4 races in 2008, they went under and took Sato with them. He'd test drive for Toro Rosso for the rest of 2008, but would not get a drive with them or Red Bull, and with that his Formula 1 career was over. After Formula 1, Takuma Sato would enter Super Formula in 2012 and 2013, but only for part seasons, scoring a total of half a point in 7 races, as well as a single outing in Formula E with the Amlin Aguri team, for old time's sake I guess. He wouldn't finish the race, but would get 2 points for setting the fastest lap, the first ever fastest lap in Formula E. Apart from a couple of races in the World Endurance Championship with Oak Racing, he has predominantly spent his time in IndyCar, and has been a success in America. Whilst never doing that well in the overall championship, he has won 5 IndyCar races, including the prestigious Indy 500 in 2017 with the Andretti team. He has kind of cemented himself as a successful single-seater racer in America, despite never finishing higher than 8th in the final standings. 2019 with the Ray Howe Letterman team was actually his best so far, with 2 wins at the Gateway and Alabama, but he was unfairly, in my opinion, blamed for a large crash at Pocono.
Run, Hunter Ray is to the inside. Huge crash. Hunter Ray, Sato. Oh no, and Rossi is in it.
A lot of cars.
Up
Rossi
in the fence is Rosenquist.
This is disastrous for Rossi in the championship. His teammate was involved like he was last year
Sato.
in turn 2. Sato's involved. Car upside down. Sato's car
On fire too.
In conclusion, it may be a mistake to call Takuma Sato underrated. He is a great driver, but he made mistakes when it mattered. His second full year with BAR in particular was pretty disastrous, but he led the Super Aguri team to its best moments and was never bettered by any of his teammates. Outside of Formula 1, he has done well in America, and is a well-liked personality. Honda basically got him the drive at Super Aguri because of pressure from the Japanese public, who support one of their best motor racing exports. I've always had a soft spot for Japanese drivers. I have said multiple times I am a big fan of Kamui Kobayashi and will watch any series he takes part in. But that fascination with Japanese drivers started with Takuma Sato, who has been a good role model for all those who come after him, including the likes of Nobuharu Matsushita and Yuki Tsunoda, who will be hopeful of following their countrymen into Formula 1 someday. Takuma Sato himself is still in his early 40s and can have more success in the future. His career is not over by a long way. Thank you for watching another episode of Formula 1 Underrated. This is episode 13 now, and I have made a full playlist which you'll find a link for in the description, along with my Twitter account, which when the motorsport starts again, I do plan on using more. Maybe. I've never really figured out how best to use it. But if you enjoyed the video, then leave a like and a comment and a share, but most importantly subscribe for more motorsport content. I'm aiming for 50 subscribers by the end of July, and I am trying some new ideas coming out soon. So it'd be good of you to come back every now and then. And with that said, thank you again, enjoy your racing and have a good one.